Video game crossovers are commonplace within the industry, offering up moments of pure joy when you see mascots and protagonists from your favourite titles team up for a bit of fun. Sometimes they're racing against each other, sometimes it's a full-on brawl, but either way, you don't ask too many questions, right? Well, maybe we should, because the entries on this list are so odd that they almost defy explanation. You'll find examples of royalty rocking up to a boxing ring to rumble, Resident Evil's Umbrella Corporation rocking up in some strange places, and most worryingly of all, RABBIDS infecting other titles. So come with me, brave traveller, as we look at the wild and weird world of crossovers. As I'm Jules, this is WhatCulture.com, and these are 10 baffling video game crossovers you can't explain. Number 10. Ape Escape and Metal Gear. Solid Snake is pretty much synonymous with stealth. Therefore, when thinking of a natural crossover, surely loud, screaming apes with flashing lights on their heads isn't the first thing that will come to mind, right? Well, bizarrely enough, that is exactly the route that Konami took everyone's favourite gravel-voiced protagonist down when they teamed up with Ape Escape to bring two amazing crossovers in Ape Escape 3 and in Metal Gear Solid 3. In the PS2 versions of both titles, the player could unlock mini-games which would see either Solid Snake track down and capture monkeys in the jungle, or you donning the dirty ape bandana of Pico Snake in MESAL Gear Solid, a mini-game that took the plucky primate on a stealth mission with all the trappings of a Metal Gear title. And yes, I did say MESAL Gear Solid, not Metal Gear Solid, because it's a combination of the Japanese of ape and Metal Gear, so I'm right. Both were brilliant fun to play and excellent riffs on the strengths of both franchises. And seeing Snake grab greasy gibbons with a net and on the flip witness a monkey sneak up a storm in a cardboard box complete with a flashing light, how could you not love this baffling crossover? Number 9. Burger King and Fight Night. Now, I know what you're thinking, that you could easily explain this crossover with the words, because money. But hold on there, sporters, even if you do agree that this is just a shameless plug for some reformed cow-faced burgers, you have to admit, it is completely bizarre. Here we have royalty, albeit a big plastic-headed one, entering the ring of a boxing arena and wanting to throw fists with some of the greatest of all time. Most other monarchs would have just been fine writing a check for the logos that are emblazoned all over the game, but this guy, well, he took it a step further. In fact, if you look at the history of the King in video games, it only gets weirder. I mean, do you remember Sneak King, where you would play as this bobblehead of state and stealth your way behind people to shove meat in their mouths? I'm not even making a joke here, that is actually what you did. I can't wrap my head around the perma-smiling King's actions at all, but at least thanks to Fight Night 3, you can now smash his plastic teeth out. Number 8. Mario and Rabbids Kingdom Battle. Okay, I'm going to level with you here. I hate the Rabbids. I honestly think that their minion-esque design and their only character trait being screaming is one of the most annoying things that I've ever experienced. Plus, they have single-handedly destroyed any chance of Rayman ever coming back, seeing as how they've dominated his very franchise and overtaken him as the publisher's mascot. It is grim. However, even I have to admit that Mario and Rabbids Kingdom Battle was utterly brilliant. I mean, it's taking inspiration from one of my favourite franchises ever, XCOM, and turning it into a cutesy top-down squad battle with over-the-top comedy, and strangely, it's this comedy that once irritated me so much that actually works so well here. That still doesn't change how utterly mad it is to see the likes of Mario alongside these buck-toothed bunnies, nor the fact that the game itself is a tactical shooter rather than a much more expected party game format. Still, I'm not complaining, and you should definitely check out this oddity. Number 7. Halo and Forza Horizon 4. Now on paper, seeing as both Halo and Forza are Microsoft exclusives, it's not as surprising to think that the pair have been throwing sultry looks at each other at the work Christmas do or whatever, even going so far as to slip in the Warthog as an unlockable vehicle in Forza 3, but no one could have expected just how far the pair would go with each other come the Forza sequel. In Forza Horizon 4, the player could unlock a showcase event that once again put you behind the wheels of the Hog, But here's the thing, it wasn't just some fancy skin for you to smash up the countryside in, this was a full-on race against time with you playing as the bloody Master Chief on a bloody Halo ring, complete with that fantastic score and Cortana in your ear for good measure. This was an utterly perfect mashup of the two, even throwing in callbacks like, "This cave is not a natural formation." But it gets even weirder when you have Cortana mention the surroundings that you're racing through, like the world that we live on is as alien to them as the Covenant that they fight in their own timeline. It's bizarre and utterly brilliant. Number 6, Payday 1 and 2 and Left 4 Dead. The Payday series is basically the franchise where it's easier to say who's not collaborated with them rather than who has, because the list is so bloody long, containing the likes of Goat Simulator, Hotline Miami, and even John Wick. But for me, the most bizarre crossover has to be the one between Payday 1 and 2 and Left 4 Dead. This heist takes place at No Mercy Hospital, the same location from the first Left 4 Dead game, and features the robbers infiltrating the building in order to steal infected blood. So far, so weird, right? But then things took a really strange turn when, in Payday 2, they remastered this level and explicitly stated that it was a flashback to a heist that was canon. Confused? Well, what the devs were saying is that the Payday and Left 4 Dead universes are connected, and that our anti-heroes helped spread the infection in their own greedy way. Even though many references to Left 4 Dead were cut in the remaster, bodies would still moan and groan in the morgue, meaning that as terrifying as it sounds, things aren't going to go well for the heist crew further down the line. And while Goat Simulator or the Hotline Miami DLC might have been even more out there, this crossover wins out because, well, it's canon. Number 5, Resident Evil's Umbrella Corporation and Phoenix Wright. As anyone who's ever played a Resident Evil game will tell you, the Umbrella Corporation are bloody bad news. Not only do they have some pretty awful tendencies to experiment with viruses, biological weapons, and lack the security needed in order to contain them should things go awry, and they always do, but they also seemingly hired the most obtuse architects in the business to design their labs, requiring more keys and codes than were sent during the Second World War. Worse than all of this, though, is that they seem to love making appearances in other video games under the air quotes umbrella of Capcom. Take, for example, the fact that their logo shows up in Dino Crisis on some of the munition crates, meaning that zombie dinosaurs are now definitely a thing, and I never needed to think about that. However, that's not as disturbing as the next connection, as in Ace Attorney, the game about putting away criminals with the power of shouting loudly and pointing furiously, we learned that one of the areas of this in-game world is Borginia, the same Borginian republic where Dino Crisis was set, meaning that zombie dinosaurs are now on trial, and I don't need that either. Oh, and if that wasn't bad enough, you can also find the Labrellum Inc. in the game, a company who in-game experiment on people in their region, and what is Labrellum but an anagram of umbrella? Oh lord, this is not going to end well for anyone involved. Number 4, Resident Evil 4 and Haunting Ground. If all of those umbrella logos cropping up all over the place weren't frightening enough, then how about we add another franchise to this horror broth that we're making by asking a simple question. Remember at the beginning of Resident Evil 4 that there was a dog that was caught in a bear trap, and if you saved that dog by freeing it, it would actually return to help you out in the El Gigante boss fight later in the game? It was pretty cool, right? Well, things are about to get a little stranger, because that dog isn't just some run-of-the-mill wood wolf, it's actually a cameo from another of Capcom's horror titles. This dog's name is Huey, and this lovable chap is the partner of Fiona Belli from the rather underrated PS2 game Haunting Ground. In this survival horror, Fiona and Huey have to escape a dark and creepy castle while being hunted by sinister forces. The game actually encouraged you to bond with Huey, as he wouldn't always listen to your commands at first until you had built up a connection. However, his appearance in Resident Evil 4 raises all sorts of questions. The ending of Haunting Ground saw the protagonists escape, but if Huey is alone here, what happened to Fiona? Was the castle that they were in just another area where Las Plagas had been used to corrupt the populace? And more worryingly, does Umbrella know about it? Because if so, that is surely going to be another area where they're gonna set up shop. Ooh. Number 3, Alex Kidd in Shinobi World. I honestly would never have put the likes of cutesy Alex Kidd and the hard as the thing's buttock Shinobi franchise together, but this strange crossing of paths occurred way back in 1990. Here, Sega's original mascot ditched his own video game mechanics and picked up a sword to battle it out in this strange new world. In fact, for all intents and purposes, this was pretty much Shinobi with an Alex the Kid skin, albeit with a much lower difficulty. The game was rightly lauded with praise thanks to its impeccable combination of challenge and great level design. But at no point did anyone ever seem to stop to say, man, this is really, really weird, right? Why is this mutton-chopped kid dicing and slicing his way through Shinobi? However, when you consider that the 90s were pretty much a tie-dye coloured acid trip of a decade, maybe it's understandable why people weren't asking too many questions. Number 2. Thanos and Fortnite. What does the giant purple Burk who snapped half of humanity out of existence have in common with one of the most successful online shooters in existence at the moment? Well, nothing really, which makes it all the stranger that for a time Fortnite players could indeed take up the mantle and put on the gauntlet as Thanos in a cross-promotion event for Avengers Endgame. Honestly, while it seems ridiculous on paper, in practice it was tons of fun, with players suddenly scrambling to avoid a giant purple loon smashing into the ground near them or using a laser to disintegrate their very bones. It certainly got the world talking, and soon thousands of players were on the hunt to be the next being to wield the power of the Infinity Gauntlet, and trust me, there's nothing scarier than a 12-year-old snapping you out of existence on that game. At number 1, Devil May Cry and VIEWTIFUL Joe. If you've not played the VIEWTIFUL Joe games, then you owe it to yourself to witness the utter carnage that these games channel. The comedy and colour involved in each title is just astounding to witness, but my jaw was left even more ajar when I found out that the beautiful VIEWTIFUL was actually connected to none other than Devil May Cry of all things. In the PS2 version of VIEWTIFUL Joe, you could unlock Dante by completing the game with any character, which is insanely cool in its own right, but this is way more than just a skin change. Now, Alastor, the sword that Dante wields in the game, is given physical form in VIEWTIFUL Joe as an antagonist, and when he and Dante clash, they exchange barbs about how Dante abandoned the weapon's spirit at the end of Devil May Cry 2. This makes for an utterly bonkers moment where Devil May Cry and VIEWTIFUL Joe's movie land share a universe, making for enough head-scratching thoughts that you'll burrow through your very skull. Thanks again, Capcom. And there we go, those were 10 baffling video game crossovers you can't explain. I hope that you enjoyed that, my friends, and please let me know down below what else you would have included in this list, because who knows, I might return and do a commenters edition further down the line. I hope that you are well, my friends, and enjoying your start to 2020 as the year ahead is looking very sort of uncertain. Just remember to be fair and kind to yourself, give yourself a break, and make sure that if you are struggling, even in this early stage of the year, that you are speaking to people about your problems, because trust me, my friend, people care way more about you than you might realise. Go out there and smash it, you absolute ledge. As always, I've been Jules. You can go follow me at RetroJ with a 0 over on Twitter. And if you'd like to do something a bit extra, then please go and follow my board game channel, which is called Live and Let's Dice here on YouTube. It'd be great to see you over there. As always, you have been awesome. Never forget that, and I'll speak to you soon. Bye.